So Keith, would you mind joining me? Butterfly, butter, woo! Marquez. And I think that's it, actually. So actually, I think you want to move down a little bit? Okay. So, Adam McMath. So also, I want to announce that on October 13th, we will be here at the Baton for a comedy show featuring Samson McCormick, another black gay guy that rocks. He's going to be here, so you all are the first to know. We're going to do a Facebook announcement about that shortly, but we would love for you all to attend. So, if anyone has any questions, before questions start, as you all line up, we want to turn it over to Keith and have him moderate the discussion tonight. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, boss lady. All right, so, boss lady. So give Butter and Marquez another round of applause. Amazing talent right here in our own community. All right, so I think there's a mic there, and I think that's Adam at the mic. He's there to take your questions, comments, no concerns, reflections, yes. That's J.C. Carter, y'all. Y'all know that, right? Yeah, give him some love, J.C. Carter. All right. So you want the
Keith is so shady. Can I say that? Okay. So initially, Butterfly and Marquez. So let's start with the actual digital stories. So Keith, what was your inspiration with making this happen? I know you were the force behind making the stories being told. What was your inspiration around making that happen? Around that that specific activity?
Well, there were a couple of things. The first was the Southside Stories Project that the Chicago Black Gay Men's Caucus was fortunate enough to be involved in with the University of Chicago. And that was really sort of life-changing for me to get in a room with a bunch of young people and have them to begin to open up and share their stories about sex and sexual health and sexuality, right? And so that experience allowed me to meet Brother Seed, who is just, if you guys give him a round of applause.
Seed, can you come up, please?
One of the most creatively brilliant people I've ever had a chance to meet, who is very passionate about this art form of digital storytelling. And so met Seed, worked on that project, and then, there was all this hype around this movie that was coming on HBO called The Normal Heart. And my partner Brian and I watched The Normal Heart together, and we sat and we waited to see ourselves reflected in this story about the early days of HIV. And there we were, all of 5 minutes as the receptionist at the agency that was the Gay Men's Health Crisis. 5 minutes was about all we had in that movie. And so those two things were the inspiration. Brother Seed and his work and the way that he brought the stories out of these young people, and then this Normal Heart movie where we were absent from.
So Seed, let me recognize Seed. So Keith called me up one Saturday morning, was like, "Oh, Galloway, you should do this." And I'm like, I'm not really feeling doing it right now. And he's like, "Oh, you should absolutely do it." But let me tell you, I was glad and happy to do it because I came to a Saturday morning. I don't live too far from Seed. The event was happening at Seed's house, the activity that is. And I walked over with my backpack down 47th Street. And I walked over to Seed's house, and the first thing I was told to take off my shoes. So my friends know that I hate taking off my shoes because I wear mismatched socks. I may have a hole in my sock, whatever. That's kind of what Galloway does. And so I was like, okay, did I wear? And I happen to have matching socks on, thank God. But I looked at this brother, Marquez, and I was like, why are you telling me to take off my shoes? Okay, not a good time. So I met Brother Seed and Marquez, and it was absolutely a phenomenal experience. Marquez, I think it's important to note, and Seedlin are both storyographers. And so I had my first experience with them. And of course, I told you guys earlier that I fell in love with the soul of Marquez because he helped bring out my story. I was all over the place, and he helped me to actually contain it. So, so my question for you is, Seed, so how was it being an ally and working with a bunch of black gay men in bringing together our stories?
It was a beautiful process. One, we started off the process. Besides taking our shoes off, we definitely blessed the space. It was almost a kind of ceremonial entrance. People brought in photographs of loved ones. We created an altar. We created a space of intention, where we talked about the kind of experience that we wanted to have coming in, to the room and sharing the space with one another, and just what it meant. And I'm going to borrow this phrase from Eric. When men convene, a convention of men where we're able to be with and among one another, gay, straight, and listen to one another. One of the things that really drives the work of storyographers, you hear a lot of people talk about voice, getting voice out, especially with youth voice. Our position is that people are always speaking their realities, if not literally, figuratively, with their actions, their decisions, their choices, their attitudes. What we think is really in a deficit right now is listening. We do not really have a culture of listening. America is not a place that really values listening. And we're trying to learn how to listen to one another better. So higher listening is one of our core tenets. And the listening that happened over those 3 days, from that Friday evening we came in to that Sunday when we parted, I think it's exemplified in some of the stories that you saw, and there are more. So please get to the caucus's website, connect with them through some of the screenings that they're going to be having and outreach events where they're going to be showing the stories. Get on their actual site, see the stories, because it's really, really beautiful what happens when we start opening up, listening to one another's stories. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, it was just such a extraordinary experience, and if you have the opportunity to do one of them, I urge you to do it because I almost slept on it, and it was just an absolutely beautiful experience. So my next question is for Butterfly and Marquez. So I thought I had no idea that both of your mothers would be in the audience. How did it feel to actually perform these pieces? And I think both of you all, at one point or another, injected your mothers in this experience. So would you all talk to us about that?
Sure. So I would say for me, it's really cathartic to have my mother here. And it kind of closes a circle that was opened and broken. And what I mean by that is that when you live through a childhood of deep, deep-seated trauma, sometimes people do not have the opportunity to have closure and have the opportunity to meet with the people who were part of that story. So I talk about my little brother in my piece, and he's no longer here with us. He was the only other person that can bear witness to what it is that we survived. But to see that my mother has come all the way through, has transformed herself, and then she is bearing witness, that is a blessing of God. And it's not just for me. It's not because I'm not that wonderful with my wonderful self. It is because her showing up lets other people know that it is possible, that you can actually crack open your soul, and you can be present for your child or for your sister, for your brother, for your cousin, for your lover. And so that's what it means for me. It's a sense of catharsis. It's a sense of love. And I think that it's okay because she used to share herself with the whole neighborhood. She was inviting people into our house all the time. So I'm actually comfortable now sharing my mother with the world in that way. So.
Wow. 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 I'm sorry. That was
Wow.
absolutely wonderful.
Amazing. It's so funny. You other than the crack experience, the things that my mother came through, you literally just like spoke about my mother. It's something about having them for me, just in this experience, having a mother who's not only gone through but come through and been mother for so many.
Yes.
Like my mother 2 years ago had a major, she had a quadruple bypass surgery. And so in this quadruple bypass, I had the opportunity to really be in touch with her living legacy. People literally broke rules to try to get to see my mother before she went in for surgery. And even when she was under, people were still trying to get in the hospital. And I was like, you know what? My mother's living legacy is love. So what I'd look to do is either match that, follow it, and then exceed it. And so when it comes, like my mom, if I was throwing rocks at a wall, my mother would be there. So for me, it's habitual. My family is right here. So, and it's like, and the thing about having family like that, I never knew what it was like to grow up, I guess per se as a gay boy, so much as Leslie or Butter. I didn't know a difference, but what that allowed me to do was be loving and accepting and open for others. Like Keith, when he first met my mom had seen me perform before, but she hadn't seen me as an adult or as Butterfly Soul. And when she saw me, we were at the Circuit nightclub, and Keith was like, "Mama Fly Soul in the front." And my mama a church mama.
Was that at Art and Soul?
Art and Soul. It was your event.
Oh.
Shameless plug. So.
Well, I actually don't do that event anymore, but...
And my mom was sitting in the front with this big crown because she's a church mama. But she's a queen indeed. And because of that, like being able to hear your mom testify, like when we were backstage, and then come on after that, I felt like she was mother for all of us. And in that same vein, like that's who my mother is.
Can I ask the mothers, do you all mind? I know I'm putting you all on the spot, but only if you all are willing. Would you all please make your way up to the stage? Because I have a few questions for you guys. Is that okay? Only if you're comfortable. So while they're coming up to the stage, if they decide to do so, Marquez, my question for you is, I have had the opportunity to hang out with you one-on-one. And you just have such an addicting soul, and that's in a good way. What is your inspiration? You talked about, throughout your piece, you talked about being resilient. What does resiliency mean to you as Marquez Ryan? What does that mean to you individually?
That's a really good question. I don't know that I actually actively think about resilience. I think that for me, life is about performance, and I don't mean on the stage. I mean that what we are performing is resilience. If we are able to get up in the morning and put one foot in front of the other, because of all the things that we've been through, and yet be able to do something of value, give something to other people. I think that that's what it's all about for me. When people ask, well, what exactly do you do? First, I trip over all of my words because, as you can tell, I have a lot of them. And then I say, well, there's this triangle, or maybe there are these circles that overlap, and one of them is art and culture, and one of them is education, and the third one is ministry. And inside those three circles, where they overlap, that's where I am. And I committed my life back when I was 14. I said, if I'm able to survive this event, if I'm able to survive this moment, then I promise that I'm going to give the rest of my life so that anybody else who is experiencing that level of deep trauma would be able to they would be able to know that they could make it through. That's what I have lived my life for. So social and economic justice are what push me, and so long as I have breath in my body, that's what I'm committed to doing. So I don't know that I think about resilience, but I think it's a daily performance. It's a ritual that we all have the opportunity to perform at any given moment.
Can we hear that? Oh my God. Okay, so I want to just turn it. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to turn it over to the mothers real quick. So, I had not planned this at all. So, how did it feel, Mama Fly Soul? If I can focus on you for a moment, Mama Fly Soul, you came in here, and I instantly knew who you were. I remembered you because you are the mother, and when I look at you, you remind me of, my mother had me very young, and so I'm only 15 years younger than my mother. But you remind me of my grandmother, someone, she's 67, 68, and someone who is very resilient, someone who loves her baby no matter what. Talk to us about what did it feel like seeing, because you know him as Leslie. We love him as Butterfly, but you know and love him as as Leslie. Talk to us about how did it feel to see your baby in action?
I can't really tell you how I felt because I'm truthfully supportive of my children. As long as I don't have to go and get them out of jail. I'm a mother that came to Chicago with no family. As I sit here today, the majority of the people you see, except for my daughter, and they are the families that I've made for myself. I have more children and have raised more children than you could ever believe. And so I raised 5 children. I could not accept the fact that my son was gay. Mm-hmm. And I think that he hid it for a long time. But deep in my heart, I did know it. I just didn't accept it. But I love him. I love all of my children, and as that you can see, wherever I am, that's where they are.
Thank you guys for being here, by the way. Thank you, Mother. So, Mother Ryan, I'm going to pose the same question to you. How did it feel to see your baby up here? And can I say this? You telling the story about your life and where you were at a moment and opening yourself up to us like that was just such a remarkable experience for me. And I hear it in the audience. Talk to us about going through that and being resilient yourself, and talking to us about how it felt for your baby to perform here. And I refer to 40-something-year-old men, nearly 40-something-year-old men, as babies. But to mothers and grandmothers, I know we're always going to be our mother's babies. So talk to us a little bit about that, would you?
I'm going to try without getting sentimental. It really felt good to see him up here opening up, telling the story about his life, and it's really so much more that he could tell, but he only had a few minutes, and he explained that to me. But I felt I had to be here. I had to be here because his story is my story. We share this bond. And unlike Mother
Fly Soul. Mama Fly Soul.
Yeah, I really, as far as saying I knew my son was gay, I never gave it a thought because my life was the crack pipe. That was my life. Okay? And that was my medicine. That was everything for me during those 10 years. But I can truthfully say this was my rock. This young man right here was my rock. This is my firstborn. That's how he's listed in my phone as my firstborn. Okay. He, like I said, he went through a lot. We went through a lot. And I'm proud. I'm proud of where he is. I'm proud of, no matter what he goes through, I'm going to be there. I'm the kind of mother that'll take that bullet for my child, no matter what. I love him. You know, like I said, his story is mine, and his story is his because of me and my actions. You know, I have to accept it. He asked for my permission. That's our testimony.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we have to wrap up, but before we wrap up, I want to hear from Marquez and Butterfly. Give me one word of how you feel at this moment.
Saturated.
Free.
So with that today, thank you so much for coming tonight. We greatly appreciate it. I ask that you come to shyblackgaycaucus.org. Visit the AIDS Foundation website, aidschicago.org. Visit stepupgettested.com. Facebook us. I want to also thank our production manager tonight, who's responsible for making sure that the flow was absolutely phenomenal, Creola Hampton. She made sure we were all right. So those of us that want to take pictures, I will invite you to stand in line over behind the bar. We're going to take pictures, and we're going to start cleaning up.